Welcome to Green Carpet Interviews. Let's get into the show. Hey everybody, welcome to Green Carpet Interviews, a show where we explore conscious living, healthy choices in a greener world. I'm your host, Deji Bankole.
And I'm Akindele Bankole.
This episode is a little bit different. Today we are
Yes, it
doing our
is.
holiday episode. This will be the last episode for the year, but we are going to kind of talk a bit about the past year, and then also a couple announcements for next year and what we got going on there. So for this year for you, Dad, how has it been? Like, how is this year for you?
Actually, it's been an interesting journey, actually. As you know, we closed that second location, the one in
Yep.
San Luis Obispo, California. And
Yep.
so, but what I realized with that restaurant is that the location that we were in was more an industrial environment. And most people weren't looking for the type of food that we actually offer. But
Mm-hmm.
I think what I learned from that is that we have an opportunity to actually begin to move into such environment and actually maybe offer something that could work for them.
Mm.
It's, if we're going to make that, if we're going to help people make a transition from that into veganism, we're going to need to do something a little bit different than what we did and the way we approached that particular location in
Mm.
that area. So I think for me, that's it. That's what I learned from that experience. And of course,
Yeah.
we learned how to manage better and actually build a process better. So our process overall is improved because we
Mm.
actually opened that location.
Yeah.
And what we learned there is actually helping our primary location in Santa Cruz function better.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's really
That's really
good.
cool. Yeah. For me, I I would say that the year began differently than it has ended. You know, I was in San Luis Obispo on at ground zero for that that restaurant, and and then about halfway through 6 months after the year began, I moved to LA and I started getting back into film. However, when I moved to LA, all the strikes were happening, and so there was no work. So
All
I came in
right.
right at the perfect time to not have any work, and so uh, that was a little bit of a struggle, but still able to get jobs here and there, so that was nice. And I think one of the things that has happened for me in terms of like uh, veganism is that I sort of realized that sometimes we have like these sort of ups and downs with this where like every once in a while I'll have like it's not that that I miss meat or anything like that, but I'll have like instances where I'm like, oh man, like it would have been just so easy, so much easier if I would have just not known about veganism, because then I could just do whatever I want. Um, but like then I'm just like thinking, that I there's like a moral responsibility for the animals, and there's a moral
Totally.
responsibility for myself that keeps me here, and I'm not going anywhere, obviously, um, but just the ease and of how other people have it versus myself. It was last night. I think everybody was ordering pizzas, and I had to like find. I had to call like four places to find one that had a gluten free and vegan crust,
Wow.
and then that one was like for a 12-inch pizza, it came out to be like $48. And I was like, this is just not worth it. Like it's not worth me to get that. So, in those situations, I'm like, but then what I realized too is that like, um, whenever I talk to other people and I get in with the community, I'm like, oh, yeah, well, this is the reason that I got here. This is the
Right.
reason that I decided to be on this journey, and it sort of reinvigorates the ideas that I sort of like the ideas that I have and the North Star that I find to be true for myself in terms of
Right.
veganism. So that's something
Right.
that I think is very interesting about this year that I've sort of like found as I've been going through the year. So
Yeah, that's fantastic, actually. You know, I because I did a class a couple of weeks ago, and then the class was on Yoruba spiritual system. Of
mm-hmm.
course, Yoruba from Nigeria, West Africa, its spiritual
Right,
system, and I talked about uh, the emphasis that Yoruba puts on the human consciousness, you know.
mm,
And if you ever notice, there are lots of in sub-Saharan Africa, many cultures, especially the Yoruba culture, uh, you find a lot of carvings and uh, you know they make artwork of heads, you know.
mm,
And the reason why is because the human consciousness is so important in Yoruba culture. And one of the things that they also do is that they wear hats a lot. So you'd find women wearing the head wrap, and then the
right,
men wearing the hats. And so part of the tradition of wearing the hat has to do with covering one's head as a protection for one's conscious mind. In other words, we're supposed to protect our head so that we don't have wrong information come into our minds. And the
mm,
reason why is because in Yoruba tradition, they believe that everybody's got their own destiny in this world. And so that the information that you need to achieve your destiny may be different from the information that I need to achieve my destiny. So
mm-hmm.
the information that's good for you may not necessarily be good for me. So that's
Right,
the reason why we have to protect our heads and protect, guard ourselves from the information that's coming in. And
mm,
and I only say this because to your point, of being in this space, to finally realize once you're in a vegan community, say, wow, this is the reason why I'm here. This
mm-hmm.
is helping me point back to that North Star, uh, that this for me is really helping me understand that my destiny, my cause, and being on this journey, I've got to protect that cause,
Mm-hmm.
and it can only be altered through what comes into my head.
Mm,
And so I'm trying to protect my head so that I'm not derailed from this good work that we're doing of helping animals and helping human beings long term, and
mm-hmm.
also helping the environment and all our health.
Yeah,
So I think for me, as you're speaking, I was thinking this is important for me to also constantly remind myself to protect my
mm-hmm.
own conscious mind, from
Yeah.
being derailed. Yeah.
Yeah, the something that I started today is the first day of it, really, but I actually deleted all of the social media apps off my phone, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, everything, and uh I'm sort of relegating myself to one movie a week because I like to watch movies and but entertainment really is like a huge it's a huge like time suck for me. And
That's right.
so what I'm doing is I'm I'll go to the movies. I'll go to like the actual theater because I have the AMC A list, so I can go to the theater, and I'll do that maybe once a week or so. And then other than that, I'm just gonna be reading or working. That's sort of the idea. And it's just I think that for me it helps with like decluttering, because right now there's a lot of
Nice.
clutter, right? Like a lot of the things that you're listening to, half of it is like, it's just like kind of this either dumb entertainment. Like it doesn't add much to your life, like
Yes.
I don't know how many
Yeah.
videos I need to see of like, a person, pranking another person with a filter, thinking that there's a spider would grow across their face, It's funny, but like I think that like, you know, that stuff doesn't necessarily help me move forward in my life. It doesn't necessarily help me move the needle in the direction that I want to go. I'm not producing projects. I'm not writing. I'm not doing all those things. So, um, really, this year at the end of it, I'm sort of starting to do more of that, like cleansing type of thing, where I'm like, all right, like let's just reduce some of these things, some of the noise, and get back to it. So similar to what you're saying about protecting your head,
Yeah.
right? I'm protecting it in a different way.
Right.
So,
Actually, yeah, that's fascinating because it's interesting too. Like sometimes our paths are kind of, I mean, clearly we're family, so we're our paths, and
mhm,
we're not just family. We literally have each other's blood,
right.
and I think we often feel like we need to move in a particular direction,
Hmm.
to better our lives or change our lives, and it's
Yeah.
interesting because I am at that point also where, with all the division that's happening in the world and the way things are going, and just the history of human suffering and the way
Mhm.
we've done so many different things to one another, be it in written word, that people write out what they what they'd like to do against somebody else, and it's just really strange,
Hmm.
our humanity. And I've got to a point where I think I'm getting close to the point where I want to come up with a um, a podcast um, topic around truce. Where we need to start talking about truce. Like I appreciate all of the all of the traditions that all of our ancestors, from Africa all the way into the Middle East, into Europe, into Asia, into South Americas, you know, um, I'm appreciative of all the traditions that we've been given, passed on to us from our ancestors. But
Hmm.
I think we need to call a truce from this point, because it seems to me like the tit for tat that's happening in the world is really hurting and really harming us. And I think
Yeah.
somehow I'm at that point where I want to move into a space of truce,
Hmm.
and that's important to me. And so part of that first move is to complete my first book. As you know, I'm writing two books at the same time, actually, but I want to
Yeah.
complete the smaller book, um, and it's called Sacred Steps. Just a way to move forward in the world.
Mm.
For both believers and non-believers, it should matter. At the end of the
Hmm.
day, we are just all human beings trying to survive, in
Hmm.
this world. And so, I'm close to 12,000 words right now in the book, and I want to get to 16,000 words, and I think I can get to that in the next week and a half, and
Mm.
then I
Well,
can then run through, kind of run through, do the editing, and then maybe
right.
send it out to a few of you guys. You guys read it over, type thing,
Hmm.
and let me know how that. But I want to keep it about 16,000, and 16, of course, representing the Yoruba 16 foundational
The
systems,
divinations. Got it.
the
Yeah.
divination system. So,
Hmm.
but I want to keep it at that, and I think just having a small book like that, it'll be probably about 100 pages. That's what
Hmm.
it's going to be. So it should be a relatively easy read, but it's a read that you can always go back to, and
Yeah.
go back and find little nuggets here and there. So every time you read it,
Mm.
you can always find something else again, so
Mm.
some type of a nugget out of it. So
Nice.
that's what I want to do towards the end of the year, as a holiday gift for myself.
Nice. So, um, this year is almost over. Now, looking
Yeah.
forward into the next year, right? Um, what are some things that you're excited about in the next year for yourself?
For me personally, just having a little bit more time,
Mm.
um, a little bit more time to do more work. As I get older, I'm finding that uh, I really want this world to be better. so that
Mm.
whenever I'm out of it, that you have a better world to be in, and
Hmm.
your kids would have a better world to be in. And so for
Yep.
me, my next year is really focusing on finding more time to collect my mind, to
Mm.
calm myself down, have more self reflection, and actually even be in a very peaceful state with an eternal peace of sorts.
Mm.
You know, I want to do that. That way I can then begin to take steps that's going to truly help make the world better. So I do not know what shape that's going to take, but that's kind of where my mind is.
Yeah.
And also, of course, coming to you guys more and spending more time, because I
Oh
think,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you being it's slightly farther away from us now. I think
Right.
I want to make sure that we don't miss out on that. So,
Yeah. Definitely. For me, I'd say the next year is something similar, actually. I just got a more of a full time job, and
oh, nice.
that's going to kind of give
Congratulations, of
me, as opposed to
course.
doing the, thank you, that's going to give me a little bit more scheduled free time, understood free time, that I can start doing some more of my writing and focusing on directing more and just becoming a little bit more balanced in terms of like health. um
Yeah.
and I know that there is, in this past year and a little bit of the year before, but in this past year for sure, I've noticed more things around my um like the things that I ingest are coming back a little bit more, so
Mm,
what I mean by that is that, if I eat something that's very oily, like that oil will come back and I'll like
mm,
feel it more. Um, the things like tomatoes, things with tomatoes are in them are not as like they don't they I get like acid reflux when I eat that. So there's some
uh-huh.
things that I'm eating that are can be maybe brought down to a little bit more of a whole food plant based type of
Hmm.
thing, and
Right.
like cutting out like those the harsher oils and cutting out like just a lot of the bad stuff. You don't have, if you're a vegan doesn't mean that you can be super healthy. You can also be like
Right.
very unhealthy and doing a lot of the bad stuff. So trying to focus a little bit more on like putting good stuff in, more
Mm, very
consciously.
nice.
So that's sort of the thing I'm looking forward to this year as well.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Very nice. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, and
Yeah.
so,
It's No, I was just gonna say, part of what we do in the podcast, although we seem to be, we for the most part focused uh, a lot on healthy eating,
mhm,
um, and also just really trying to spread the consciousness around animal cruelty or even the environment. But I
mhm,
think the one thing that I also think that could also be part of this is how to get people into more self-aware, more
mhm,
self-awareness,
mhm,
where they're able to really come to terms with themselves,
mhm,
and quit looking outwards for the answer, you know, uh, especially for the answer that they actually have inside.
mm,
I think so. I'm,
yeah,
I'm trying to figure out that. That's of course part of this next year's work for me,
right,
is to figure out how that's going to shape out. So
yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of we're almost uh at the end of
out of
this episode
time,
already, right?
yes, yeah,
Um,
yeah, 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 it's pretty,
but
yeah,
I do want to
goes
talk a bit
fast.
about like I know about the things that are coming up next year for the podcast. There's not I'm not gonna reveal everything, because I know there's gonna be a lot of new interesting surprises happening with the podcast, and um, but what I will talk about is that we are going to be starting up a Patreon. So for those people who don't know, um, we have been recording uh like after shows with some of our guests, and some of those after
Right.
shows, they get pretty great. I mean, it's like it's either funny or there's a lot
Yeah.
of information, or some, and honestly sometimes I feel a little bit bad, but sometimes the after shows are sometimes a little bit more fun than the regular show, and I'm like, well, why didn't you say
Yeah.
that in the so anyways, but we're gonna have all of those episodes available on Patreon, and we're gonna have, as we do more episodes, those are gonna be available as well. So for those people who want to hear a little bit more about what we're doing or help support the show, there'll be an opportunity to do that on our Patreon account. And so, yeah, that's a big thing that we're working on. There's other things we're working on in terms of like guests and maybe some guest hosts. But
Yes.
we'll talk a little
Bit
bit more about that
Yeah,
as
yeah,
the
yeah.
year
That's
as the
going to be
year
actually
comes a little
good.
closer.
And
Yeah.
yeah, as just so people know, we've been looking at some of the guests that we've actually had on, and some of those guests actually are really knowledgeable and they're actually good.
Hmm.
Some of them actually really truly represent the demographics of our business. They
Hmm.
can really share with a lot of people that actually come to us that actually seek what we do, and I
Hmm.
think yeah, and I think we've sometimes gotten a little bit of a tacit, yes, I'd come back, type
Yeah. Yeah.
from a couple of the guests. So I'm excited about that
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you may be seeing some familiar faces for those people who are longtime listeners. Um,
right.
but yeah, so there's some exciting things coming in the future. But as always, I want to thank everybody for listening and supporting us so far, and we're looking forward to a really cool and awesome 2024.
Yes, and definitely we appreciate you guys so much, and we'll be right back just a few weeks.
Alrighty, bye.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Green Carpet Interviews. We hope you found it informative and inspiring.
This show was brought to you by Veg on the Edge, our vegan restaurant in Santa Cruz and San Luis Obispo. If you're in the area, be sure to stop by and check out our delicious plant-based dishes. Check out vegontheedge.com for more information.
To stay connected with us and learn more about conscious living, follow us on Instagram at Green Carpet Interviews. We love hearing from our listeners and would love to hear your thoughts and feedback.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Green Carpet Interviews.